Hello and welcome to you all. Today I'll be talking about studying modern languages at university. So a bit about me to begin with. My name is Rosie. I'm from Llangernyw, which is not too far from Llanrwst. And so I was a pupil at Ysgol Dyffryn Conwy, where I did my A-levels. I did French, English, maths and physics, not the most traditional subjects for someone wanting to go on to study languages. It's also worth pointing out that I studied A-level French via a link course, which I did at Ysgol y Creuddyn. Quite a daunting prospect at first, but it turned out to be such a worthwhile experience. So if any one of you is studying a language or any other subject through a link course, do stick at it because it's so worth it. Fast forward a little bit then, and I'm now in my third year studying French and German at Cambridge, but I'm not actually there at the moment. I'm currently living in Germany on my year abroad. I'll be here until the end of February, and then I'll be moving to France for another 6 months. But I'll talk a bit more about that later. First, I want to tell you a little bit about the course itself. So languages as a subject really is one of the most varied degrees there is, not just in terms of the course content, but in terms of the various combinations you can do. You can choose to study just one language on its own, that is one that you did at A-level. You can do 2 A-level languages, I think some universities even offer 3. Or you can do 1 post-A-level language and 1 ab initio language, which means that you study the language from scratch at university. That's what I did, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. You can also study a language alongside another subject, so joint honours essentially. For example, history, English, law. Again, different universities offer different combinations, so if this is of interest to you, look at some of the universities' websites to see who offers what. The content of the course also varies quite a bit depending on the university. So French at Cambridge is different to French at Oxford, which is different again to French at Manchester, and so on. Some universities offer courses which focus mainly, if not solely, on language, which might appeal to those of you who aren't keen on studying literature. I was, and that's why I chose Cambridge, because the course is so comprehensive. And I think this is the case with a lot of the Russell Group universities. They do tend to offer quite a few literature and culture modules. So maybe do some research into this and bear your interest in mind when choosing a course. As I mentioned earlier, I myself study French and German. French was my post-A-level language, and then I started German at university, so I followed the ab initio course. And the title of the course I study is Modern and Medieval Languages, or MML for short, in case anyone is interested in studying at Cambridge. It's extremely varied. You can see here the kinds of modules that are offered. And what I mean by cultural aspects is things like history, film, philosophy, so all sorts really. Here are some more specific examples of the modules offered at Cambridge, and what you can see here is an overview of the French course. Again, this will look very different to other courses at other universities, and do bear in mind that this is only one part or one half of the course. For the first 2 years at least, you'll study 2 languages together if you study at Cambridge, or 1 language and history if you study the HML, History and Modern Languages course. So part 1A, everyone does the same modules in first year, and the language papers are more or less the same for French, Spanish, whichever language you do, as long as it's a post-A-level language. The German language side didn't look like this for me at all in first year, but I did then take these language papers for German in my second year, so GE1 and GE2. The FR1 paper then, or GE1, SP1, gives you a taste of a little bit of everything, literature, history, philosophy, which then gives you an idea of what you like or don't like and what you want to carry on with in second year. And you get to choose then which papers you want to take. You can see here just how much choice there is, and that it really does cover a very wide period, so medieval, modern and everywhere in between. So there's something for everyone, whatever your interests. And the project you do in third year while abroad gives you the opportunity to explore this further and look more closely at a particular subject or theme that interests you, which prepares you in a way for fourth year, where you'll see that there's even more choice. And you can choose to focus on one language in your final year, so you'll only have to do one set of language papers plus the scheduled papers that you choose. Again, your timetable obviously depends on the university, on your language combination and on the modules you've chosen, but at Cambridge generally there's a lot of independent work, whether that's for language classes, so grammar exercises or translations, or reading for essays, and then actually writing the essays based on what you've learnt from the lectures and from wider reading. The lectures focus on the literature and culture aspects and introduce you essentially to the texts and particular themes in English, and the idea then is that you go off and read further. I don't think I need to explain what happens in the language and translation classes. They are quite straightforward. Supervisions, on the other hand, are unique to Cambridge, and they give you an opportunity to talk to someone who essentially really knows their stuff about a particular subject. You are supervised alongside one or two other students maximum, so it's a really good chance for you to ask questions and to discuss what you came across in the reading, and you also get feedback about your essay, and the title or the theme of the essay is actually what acts as the basis of the supervision in a way. You also have oral supervisions, and if you do French, it's the lecteur or the lectrice who does these with you, so someone who's come over from France for the academic year to complement what you do in the lessons and to concentrate on the speaking side. And these obviously take place through the medium of the target language. Assessment types and exams are quite straightforward. I don't think I need to say too much there. In second year, you can replace one of your exams with a long essay, which is not the same as a dissertation. It's just an extended essay in a way. But you can then do a real dissertation in your final year. So I've already talked about how varied the course is, and I'd say that that's one of my favourite things about studying languages. Even if you're doing a course which isn't that heavy in terms of the literature content or any other non-language aspects, you are still doing a lot more than just learning a language. And as I said before, you can tailor this to your own interests. And although there is quite a big emphasis on literature and other cultural aspects at Cambridge, I've had the opportunity to speak a lot of French and German during my time there, especially in my first year, and this was something that was really important to me personally. I'm not sure that this is the case in all universities, but at Cambridge, the language teachers are also native speakers, and as I mentioned before, we have the oral supervisions for French with a lecteur or a lectrice, which really does make the world of difference. Obviously, the year abroad is one of the highlights of the course. I think my friends would all agree, and I could talk about this for hours, but I'll try and keep it short. I am, as I said, in my third year at the moment, so I'm working abroad. You don't have to work, you can study, volunteer or whatever. And I'm currently in Bochum in northwest Germany, and then I'll be moving to Toulouse in France in March. And already I feel like I've had an incredible experience. I've only been here for about 3 months, but I've learned so much. Living abroad is such an eye-opening experience, and it forces you to deal with things that you might not have had to deal with before. And of course, it's a chance for you to immerse yourself in the language and the culture, which is something that you can only really do by moving to another country. To move on now to how to do well at university, my advice isn't actually specific to studying languages, but it's something that I really do believe in, which is that you have to be interested in your subject and be curious about what you're studying. You have to enjoy what you do, because otherwise you'll have no motivation to learn and to work. And that's another important point. Wherever you study, you have to work hard and work consistently. Not just cram before exams at the end of the year, but put in effort throughout the term, especially somewhere like Cambridge. It doesn't matter how clever you are, you can't afford to be complacent once you get to university, otherwise you'll fall behind. But as long as you do this, work hard, you'll be fine. No one's expecting perfection, but there is an expectation that you'll try your best. So onto careers then, and I must admit I did not go into this because of the opportunities a language degree would offer me, which again goes back to the importance of choosing a subject you really are passionate about and are studying for the right reasons. But having said that, it is a degree that will open up a number of doors for you in the future, and I think not everyone is aware of this, especially if, like me, you come from quite a small community where perhaps not everyone recognises the value of languages or arts and humanities in general. A degree in languages doesn't set you up for any one particular career. I personally have come across far too many people who think that teaching or translating, even though these are both respectable and stimulating careers and ones that I myself am actually considering, are the only options for someone who's studied languages. You can see some examples on the screen which show some of the areas you could possibly go into, but what's important, I think, when considering how a languages degree prepares you for the future is the transferable skills you gain. And what I mean by that is the skills that you can apply in any field of work, so communication skills, analytical skills, open-mindedness, and so on. And I think languages really is one of the best degrees for this. So that's it from me today. Thank you all for watching, and if anyone has any questions, you can of course get in touch with me via email or Facebook. I'll now pass you back to the host, who will give you instructions for the next step.